Good morning, everybody. Want to welcome you all, members, non-members, and guests. Thank you for joining us at our 2021 HMA Spring Virtual Event. And as you can see, this is sponsored by the 4-County Labor Market Planning Board, serving the 4 counties, Bruce, Grey, Huron, and Perth. Now, recently, we sent out a survey asking for membership suggestions. And as a result, we come up with the 2021 virtual event survey. And that was as a result of 38% response from our membership, with many valuable suggestions and requests. And we have 2 speakers for you today based on that information. Our first guest is Dr. Jon Callegher. John is on a mission to share his research about job satisfaction in skilled trades in an age when such jobs are in high demand. At the end of his presentation, there will be time for questions, and he'd be glad to field anything that you have to request of him. Now, on your right of the screen is his memorandum there.
I have just one person to join, Larry. I'll just do that before we go ahead. Two people waiting, just joining us. Okay.
And at this time, it's our pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker, Dr. Jon Callegher, Executive Director of Job Talks. Thank you for attending, John.
Thank you so much, Larry, and thank you everyone for being here. It means a lot that you would spend part of your morning with me, and I very much appreciate the introduction. Just in a moment, I'm going to share some slides, so you should be able to see a set of slides, a slide cover that says 5 great reasons for a career in the skilled trades, and I should be on the screen as well. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you what I've discovered about workers across Canada generally, and workers in the skilled trades specifically, and to show you how they're different from one another. And maybe based on some of the learnings that I've discovered, we can improve our recruitment and retention methods, because a lot, I think, as you know, goes into messaging for recruiting young people to the trades, especially is, the good salary that you can earn. Well, I'm here to report for you that there are many other benefits that maybe aren't as talked about, but are just as important, especially when we consider the future of our younger people. So I am one of those people that went to school for another 13 years after graduating high school, if you can imagine that. I had a degree in sociology, and I found out very quickly with my colleagues with a history degree or a social science degree or even a biology or geography degree that you had to go and make that degree work for you. And for a lot of us, that just meant going back for more school. So I did a master's degree for 2 more years and then 7 years for a PhD. And I watched a lot of people start their lives while I was still in the books. But 3 or 4 years ago, I started looking closely at workers across Canada. And I've studied thousands of workers, everybody. And the most easiest way to do that is by having people complete a survey. And you probably completed a survey before, but imagine this was a very big and in-depth survey that asked you to look at statements about your job and have you respond to statements about these jobs, either true for me, partly true for me, or not true for me at all. And I'm going to show you a sample of these statements right now. So play along, think about your job. True for me, partly true for me, or not true for me at all. I like having the freedom to make my own decisions. I think my job is cool. My work brings me peace of mind. Doing my job makes me truly happy. A few more examples, everybody. Most days, I find my work stimulating. I feel a special bond with other people in my field. I like that I can be myself at work. Hard work pays off in my field. We also asked about the negatives. We can learn a lot by how people respond to negatives about their jobs. For example, my job is much too stressful. How many have said this or know someone who said this? If it wasn't for the money, I would quit this job tomorrow. So when you show these statements, everyone, and about 40 more to people in all kinds of jobs across the country, we start to see patterns in the way different types of people respond to different questions based on their jobs. And we call these patterns really just segments. So you see, we have 5 segments of the population of Canada based on how people feel about their work. We have the square pegs at 11%, the bottom rungers at 26%, the musketeers at 15%, the comfortable, a group that of course I'll talk more about later, at 21%, and the fulfilled at 27%. So let me just walk you through each slice of the pie so you can see how they're different from each other. So the first group here, the square pegs, it's just a job. This is a group that only work for the money. Their education, unfortunately, is not aligned with their work. They don't feel that they have a sense of contributing to society. They don't get a lot of meaning from their jobs. We have this idea of square peg, round hole. Altogether, they are unmotivated. They are unhappy. It's not good news, but it's an unfortunate reality for about 11% of the Canadian workforce, the square pegs. Next, we have where we find many of our younger workers, the bottom rungers. You know where this is from, the bottom of the rung of the ladder, looking to someday climb up. Our future leaders, sure, outgoing and engaged, for sure, but also very impatient and frustrated because many are craving a clear career path and many are not getting it. We see this especially in office jobs, desk jobs, clerical jobs. What do we see in the last, what have we been seeing in the last 5 to 10 years in office jobs? We see workers in their 40s and 50s suddenly having their job be transferred or displaced and transferred to someone overseas to do it remotely, or have their department be replaced by a piece of software. What does that mean? That means workers in their 40s and 50s in office jobs are looking out for their own job security, not spending enough time mentoring the generation after them where they need to look after themselves. That's a period of real frustration for many younger workers in these types of jobs, and we call that the Millennial Malaise, a period of frustration. So we have the square pegs, the bottom rungers. Next, we have musketeers, all for one and one for all. You may know someone who works in the healthcare industry, and there's a good chance, this is where we find many in the musketeers category, there's a good chance that they put other people first. They put themselves second. They also, you might notice, as a result of this, that makes them a good caregiver, but they also are highly stressed out. You know, you don't leave that stress at work. Sometimes that work is brought home too. But one thing we've seen with workers in the musketeers category is that they're more likely to say that they have a strong bond, a solidarity with their colleagues, and that keeps them coming back to work, putting up with that stress, willing to make the trade. But make no mistake, you turn on the news, we've all seen it, especially in the last year or more, but it was like this before COVID-19. Many in healthcare are close to burning out. So let's review square pegs, bottom rungers, musketeers, and now everyone, the group that surprised a lot of people, the comfortable. Don't mess with a good thing. Here we have a group of workers that are more likely than any other group across Canada to be able to claim that they have work-life balance, a means to a good life, where you leave work at work and you don't have work interrupt your family time, your time with friends, entertainment, your weekends, your evenings, your vacation. And you better believe it, if you ask people who don't work or who are in categories outside the comfortable, they are craving, they would love to be able to say that they have work work-life balance. Many cannot. Of those who can, many are in the skilled trades. They are also settling down early. What does that mean? Well, buying homes, buying vehicles, buying second homes, starting families, going on expensive vacations. Why? Because they can. Because they're financially able to do so. They don't have the burden of crushing university tuition debt in their 20s. And altogether, this is a very satisfied group. Of course, I'll talk more about that a little later. So just recapping: square pegs, bottom rungers, musketeers. Here we have the comfortable. And now is the other very happy group, the fulfilled. I'm doing what I meant to do. This is a group of workers who feel they have work-life integration. They don't mind. In fact, they thrive on having their work life and home life overlap. And many we find are in the education sector, but also in management and leadership positions who don't mind being interrupted on evenings and weekends. People get value from their work in the fulfilled category. They get value from being able to bring their work home. This also especially is accounted for in the amount of control that you have over your work, okay? And being able to make certain decisions about when certain things get done. But the idea of control is an important driver of being in the fulfilled category, and it's why we also see skilled trades workers in the fulfilled category as well, because skilled trades workers quite literally have control over their work while using their hands, by creating new things, not only within the same day, but within the hour, multiple times an hour, depending on the type of job. So altogether, very satisfied as well with the comfortable before them. So just to summarize for anyone who might have joined late, we have one group of the Canadian workforce, everybody, who are miserable, the square pegs. Another, the bottom rungers, who are unhappy, but they're hopeful about the future. Another, the musketeers, who are, they're stressed out, but they like the people that they work with. And then we have the two more happier groups, you could say, the comfortable and the fulfilled. Now, if you took your hand and drew an invisible line down the middle of that, what we call a pie chart, you are going to notice some good news. You'll notice, hey, some good news. Almost half of Canadians are happy in their jobs. All right, good news. Well, what's also true, everyone, unfortunately, is the other side of that, right? Which is that more than half of Canadians are not happy in their jobs. But what we do know, and we have the data to show it, as a result of how all kinds of people in different kinds of jobs responded to statements about their work, is that skilled trades workers are among the happiest workers in the country. But I think many of you know, that if you were to ask the average Canadian, hey, what's a skilled trade? What's a tradesperson? Well, about 30 to 35% of Canadians will say, I don't know. Others will say, I think a surgeon, right? Someone who performs surgeries, that's a skilled trade. They'll guess something wrong. And of those who do know, they will guess, I think, a carpenter, a plumber, electrician. Is that a trade? So Canadians have a very, by and large, narrow understanding or misunderstanding of workers in skilled trades careers. And we don't realize, that agricultural equipment technician is a trade, tool and die maker, cabinet maker, sew and pastry chef is a trade, automotive service technician, hairstylist. Now, please know that I produced a video interview with each of these individuals that you see on your screen. If you see a face and a job title, I'll give you some links where you can watch some interviews or share them with young people or other educators of people talking about what they like about their job. I've interviewed more than 100 workers in different types of skilled trades jobs on camera. More mechanical insulators, chefs, machinists, welders, electricians, plumbers. But make no mistake, let's set the record straight. I think, as many of you well know, not all of these jobs are, relegated to men. There are female welders, electricians, and plumbers, women iron workers, industrial mechanic millwrights, refrigeration and air conditioning mechanics, women truck and coach technicians, instrumentation and control technicians, automotive painters, and they have work-life balance. They see the results of the work immediately. They're done work at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And they have high job satisfaction. But many Canadians don't know enough about these jobs, and they don't know that a path to happiness does exist in the skilled trades. Now, let me talk more now about younger workers generally and what they're going through, and how what they're going through might be very influential in the type of career choices that they would weigh as they start to enter the working world. So let me show you or talk to you about what we know about younger workers. You might say, if I asked you, hey, describe for me a young worker today, you might say, well, they're hardworking, they're entrepreneurial, they know a lot about the world, they're good with technology, they're ambitious, they're hopeful, they're good people. All of that's true, sure. But what we also know, unfortunately, is that younger workers today are reporting in higher numbers than their adult counterparts or the generations before them, feeling more or greater levels of being tired, stressed, worried, lost, and having debt. And none of that is good news. Now, what I want to share with you is how, or rather the causes in part or in great part of each of these emotions and experiences. But I will also share with you what I've learned is that workers in the skilled trades are much less likely to report having these negative emotions and experiences. But first, if you were to think about an answer to this question, how do you want to feel every day? There's a good chance you might say, I want to feel happy, relaxed, content. I want to feel protected, or like I'm protecting. I want to feel loved. I want to feel energized. We want to feel all of these things at the same time, everybody. And our lives are just a journey of bringing ourselves into balance. It's when you feel down in one area, you will buy something, eat something, talk to someone, go on a certain social media channel, read something to bring you back into balance, to make you feel good. We all do it. There is one emotion that Canadians, Americans, people actually across all age groups are feeling more than any other emotion today. By far, they're tipped over in one direction so much emotionally. And you might be guessing, maybe that's stressed, maybe that's anxious, maybe it's something else that's probably negative, and you would be correct. The actual answer is tired. Everybody is walking around tired. And tired is not just not having sleep. And let me explain that. The reason why many of us of all ages are not getting as much sleep as we were used to, it's strongly correlated with the introduction of these devices into our daily lives. Across all age groups, this device, despite making our lives better in many ways, has also kept us up later at night. No one would admit 10 years ago to watching 2 movies a day. Today, we celebrate it and say, I binged watch a whole season in 3 days, and someone gives you a high five. And this is, again, across all age groups. What does that mean? It means our media consumption is keeping us up later. Our bedtimes get extended. Our wake-up times stay the same. We're walking around like zombies. We're tired. But tired also means the feeling of not doing what you were meant to do. And when you're physically tired and you feel like you're not doing what you're meant to do, you are craving. We are, all of us, craving the opposite of that. And the opposite of that is not awake. It's not energized. The opposite, truly, of tired is feeling alive. I'll say it again, alive. Do you feel alive when you're sitting at a computer, staring at a screen or a Word document for hours and hours at a time? Or are you more likely to feel alive when you're moving, when you're using your brain or body, when you're engaging in physical activity, dancing, running, movement? When is the opportunity in a young person's life to really feel alive? It's not when they're sleeping, because they're sleeping. It's not when they are at home. People come home to have dinner and rest generally. The opportunity to really feel alive in the prime of your working life is, as I just said, at work. Okay. And the reality is, unfortunately, for many young professionals, they do do not feel alive at work. Rather, they report feeling very, very tired. Waking up, getting in their commuting vehicles, sitting, going to that same cubicle, same desk, same screen, sitting for several hours, having lunch, maybe getting up, walking around, or like a good worker, sitting at that desk and eating their sandwich at that desk through lunch. Continue sitting in the afternoon, getting in your commuting vehicle, sit some more, come home, sit for dinner, sit on the couch to relax, go to sleep, repeat on Tuesday. Same desk, same cubicle, same screen. Repeat on Wednesday. Same desk, same screen. Repeat on Thursday, repeat on Friday. It's no wonder many young workers today are reporting feeling tired at work. You know where I'm going with this. Skilled trades workers are much more likely to report feeling alive at work. Some work indoors, some outdoors, some a combination of both. They have the opportunity to see the results of their work immediately and be able to say things like, I use my body and mind. My days are never boring. There's actually a lot of variety. You get to see the product of your work right away. How can it go any other way? That workers who are able to report having the ability to achieve these things are also willing or more likely to say that they feel alive in their jobs than workers who are constantly sitting all the time. So another negative emotion among our young people today, everybody, is stress. Stress levels are up. And again, we call it a correlation, a strong connection between the increased use of our devices and increased stress levels also among all ages. If I were to point to that cause here, it's this reality. Now, if Larry looked at this picture 15 years ago, he probably would have shook his head and said, no, this can't be the future. I know I've said that too. I mean, come on, no, this is not the future. It can't be. Well, the future is here, isn't it? And maybe Larry would sit next to one of these individuals on the bench and do the same thing. We've normalized this. But what does this activity of keeping our devices constantly connected to us, what has that normalized? It's normalized a constant and steady stream of disruptions, interruptions, notifications into our daily lives, into our brains. It is not something that we're wired for. Stretch out your arms at home if you want. Imagine that's the length of time that human beings have been on the planet. The tip of your fingernail will represent the amount of time in the course of human history that our brains have gotten used to this constant and steady stream of interruptions and disruptions. You think that's good for kids at an early age? Of course it's not. And if you think it's bad now, make no mistake, it will only get worse. And I don't take any pleasure in reporting that. 5G internet connectivity is here. What does that bring with it? Lightning fast internet connectivity. That means with machine learning, our devices will be able to learn and relearn. Add Silicon Valley's profit motive to sell us more things that are personalized and geolocated to wherever we are. These notifications will become even more tailored, even more frequent, even more addictive. How can it go any other way? In a best case scenario, all of us would have jobs where we are not connected to our devices for a certain period of time, large chunks of time, or even prohibited from being on our devices. But you know, based on other people in your life, probably that is not a reality for many groups of workers, but it is for many workers in the skilled trades who have work-life balance, who when they come home, they're not interrupted by their bosses at work or by clients on weekends or on vacations, or when they're trying to spend time with their families, but also at work. One cannot be on a device when measuring, when cutting, installing, repairing, when being accountable to teams. Okay. And when one's expertise is required to get something done in a timely manner. And that makes the day go by fast when you have all those responsibilities. And then come home and then bring it on, the gaming, the social media, the personal entertainment. But at least during an important part of one's day, there is a disconnect. There is a little bit, you could say, of analog in a young person's brain. and it can only be good for better health and well-being compared to others of the same age who are constantly connected to their devices. So for a young person who wants to be able to say, I'm not on my phone all day, thank goodness. I can manage my time for my convenience. I do my work, and then the rest of the time is mine. I'm usually home by 5. I'm not being interrupted, being summoned in to report. Worried, everybody. Some of you might have said that maybe one of the most popular emotions today is anxiety. You would be correct, especially among younger workers. Does anyone know here? I'll just let you take a guess to yourself. How many Ontarians lost their jobs in the first 3 months of COVID-19? 1.1 million Ontarians lost their jobs in the first 3 months of COVID-19. Another 1.1 million Ontarians had their hours significantly cut or reduced. If you're a younger worker and you see your adult counterparts with decades of experience suddenly open for work, looking for a job, maybe still looking for a job, would you be worried? Would you look and say, could that be my future too? Would that cause some anxiety? It would for me. Well, here's an interesting table. Remember those statements I shared with you at the beginning? Here are a few examples. And here is how tradespeople responded, true for me, and the rest of Canada, how they responded, true for me. Most days, I feel I've put in an honest day's work. Okay? Almost 3/4 of tradespeople say true for me compared to just 2/3 of the rest of Canada. My work gives me a sense of success and achievement. Okay? More than 2/3 of tradespeople compared to less than half of the rest of working Canadians. I often have fun at work, 60% to 43%, but everyone, look at the bottom. Nowadays, I often feel worried. Just 17% of skilled trades workers compared to 42% of the rest of working Canadians. Why are skilled trades workers 3 times less likely than the rest of Canadians to say that they're anxious about the future and thinking about their job? Well, the answer is pretty simple, and I think many of you might already know. Tradespeople have skills security, and that's something we should really emphasize. We know, first of all, that in the wake of the pandemic, there were really a handful of what we call essential workers. We have workers who were in healthcare, workers who worked in sort of grocery-related retail, and of course, many workers in skilled trades careers, because the work of making our civilization maintained or to grow has to continue. But also, it can be argued that skill security means very simply that a ball bearing is a ball bearing. A tool is a tool. Wood is wood. Electricity is electricity. And we can work with these materials across different provinces, different countries, one could say different languages, and be able to pivot should the necessity occur with much less difficulty than workers in other types of careers. So skilled trades workers are much more likely to say that the skills you develop are highly transferable, that a trade is portable, that you can take it anywhere you go. Well, in debt is something that many don't want to talk about. So we like to say when we try to promote skilled trades, and this is provincially and across the country, we like to throw in that you can make 6 figures at some point. We just like to throw that in. Well, guess what, everybody? I'm telling you that, a 12-year-old doesn't say they want to become a veterinarian so they can make $100,000 a year, or they want to become a nurse so they can make $85,000 a year to start. Kids don't think that way. Okay? They have other reasons, and we have to just get a little bit beyond the salary. And we don't really like people who, when we meet at a party, the first thing they do when telling us about their job is how much money they make. So let's think of some other reasons, or look at something else that might maybe at a younger, a more mature student can appreciate. And maybe talking about, maybe they've seen people around them who are not going far in their life because they're really burdened by debt. So just tweaking that salary component. And let's talk about two types of graduates. You have one type of graduate who has a university degree. If that degree wasn't paid for by somebody else, they need to start paying back that tuition. And that will be about $30,000 to $40,000 at the end of 4 years. And they got to get a job with that degree. And maybe because they're in their 20s, they want to move out of their house and start their lives as an independent young adult. What happens? You know what happens. The university graduate in large numbers across Canada and the United States, they stay at home living with mom and dad because the tuition debt is too great and the job market is too precarious. That's not controversial. It's how it is. We're used to it now. Living at home into their 20s, sometimes into their early 30s. Another kind of graduate maybe took an apprenticeship in high school, got familiar with an apprenticeship type of education and continued that after graduating high school. And while they were being trained, learning, they were getting paid. And at the completion of that training, they started their lives as an independent young adult, debt-free. Similarly, going to a college program where many colleges in Ontario will pay for in full or in great part skilled trades related programs, meeting the demand that we have, most of which include an apprenticeship, during which that student continues to get paid while learning. And after graduating, you could say, they started their lives debt-free and tuition-free as an independent young adult. And so two types of graduates. One had to pay first and then find out if that degree that they earned but also paid for is going to get them a job. And the other got paid the entire time that they were learning and can say, hey, I started earning when I was 19 years old. I could support a family on it. Lastly, lost, everyone. The more we know about the world, as it turns out, the more questions we have. What's my place in the world? How can I make a difference? Well, I've learned that many workers in the skilled trades can easily say the difference that they make in the world. They can say things like, I help make Canada's business and institutions modern and safe. I help build, maintain, make the parts for, all kinds of structures upon which our civilization would not exist. Homes, schools, hospitals, bridges. I contribute to the wellness of my community. I do my part. My wife, everybody, likes her job. She works in advertising. She gets to apply her creativity. But she also has to admit that part of her job involves selling more salt, sugar, and fat to you and your family. And sugary drinks. And when I ask her, how do you make a positive difference in the world through your job? She's not really able. She has to reach down pretty deep to come up with an answer to that question. Many in the skilled trades can answer that question with pride. And they get mentoring. 80% of workers were prepared by mentors in the trades. Remember, I said young people are craving mentorship. Well, they're getting that in the skilled trades. This idea of someone having a body of knowledge and passing it down to the generation after them is something that is in short supply, with the exception of skilled trades related careers, and it is treasured. The mentor mentors, and the mentee later on becomes the mentor themselves. So if the trades are so great, why is there a shortage? I know some of you have your own answers to this question. Let me give you what I believe are three very important ones, and then I'll wrap us up. So the first is we have a narrow perception when we walk, when we see a tradesperson. Even though trades are kind of everywhere, the most obvious place that most Canadians see someone who is working in a trades-related career is a construction site, because they're everywhere. And what do we see? We see a man, we see a pit of dirt, we see metal and machines, and many say, you know what, pass, not for me. And that might, you can empathize with that position. What we don't see, however, is another reality, which is Larissa, who's a bulldozer operator, who sees the results of her work immediately, who's done work at 4 o'clock, who's moved out of her house from her parents and lives on her own, who makes a great salary and benefits, who is not connected to her device all the time, who likes the people that she works with and has high job satisfaction. And when most people, when they walk by, say at construction site, we don't think about all of the other people that are connected to the fulfillment of the final project and that are very well rewarded, like the tile setters, the insulation installers, and the welders and framers and concrete and drain specialists and excavator operators. We don't think about when we walk by that construction site, the HVAC technicians, site supervisors, health and safety managers, trim carpenters, the hardwood floor installers, the stonemasons, the handyman, the bulldozer operators, the building wrap foreman, the mobile crane, tower crane operators, the project coordinators. So I want for many, especially parents, to see images like this and also look at their faces. Look how young they are. And they have work-life balance. It's better for mental health and well-being. They see the results of their work immediately. They feel alive at work. They make great salaries and benefits. They like the people that they work with, and they are much less likely to be anxious and insecure about the future of their job compared to the majority of Canadians. And yet, parents still say, if you want a good life, you got to go to university. Parents, their primary emotion with respect to their children is to protect. And when you want to protect your kids, you give them the best information you have. And for most parents, still, the best information they have is, if you want a good life, go to university. Now, maybe, or rather, there are workers, parents in the trades who know that you can have a good life and you don't have to go to university. But one thing I like to tell parents is that just because you see someone working in the skilled trades, don't jump to the conclusion that they weren't, quote unquote, good enough to get into university. I'm in this game. I know, first of all, you can get into university with a 60% average. Okay, universities are businesses now. It's more likely the case that this person working in the trades maybe didn't want to go to university. Maybe the trading of $30,000 to $40,000 for a credential that may or may not get them a job was not something that they wanted to get into. Maybe they didn't need that degree in order to get a job that was fulfilling and right for them. And maybe they didn't want to have 4 more years of theoretical based learning, and that's 40 courses over the next 4 years. Just wasn't for them. So they went and did something else that made them happy. Lastly, everybody, educators. So educators have, over the years, it's getting better in recent years, but educators all went to university. So it makes sense that they'd be more likely to tell students or talk to them about what they know. And that can, to an extent, be excused. You're more likely to talk about what you're familiar with. But broadly speaking, we tend to value something called academic intelligence. And I'll just tell you what intelligence is, a simple definition. Intelligence is just the ability to see patterns and make predictions. And that's all IQ tests are. And we celebrate people who see patterns in words, history, numbers. We call them our public intellectuals. We say they're the smart ones. Well, imagine that you have a young person who could stand up in front of a room and recite from memory a poem by William Shakespeare, or Plato's allegory of the cave, and from memory, and really just make everybody feel something. We say that young person, they're smart. Well, what if you can also have another young person, okay, who can explain the importance of a ball bearing and making a roller coaster operate, or how Tesla the body is framed by metal and stamping, or how to take a pile of wood and make a dresser drawer from it. Which one of those two students is smarter than the other? I say they're both smart. They just lean toward different types of intelligence. One, the poet, sees patterns in words, more academic intelligence. The other sees patterns in the real world. And I call this balanced smarts, balanced intelligence. How to draw water to a home. Okay. How a vehicle is put together. What happened when the Wi-Fi went out and no one knows what's going on? How to get the electricity back on? How roads and bridges are built? Why structural integrity is important? If the chips were down and we needed to survive for a little bit, who would you want on your team? Would you be looking for someone with balanced smarts, a tradesperson, or someone who leans more toward academic smarts, a sociologist? Okay, trust me, you don't want me on your team. Okay, I'll bring you down. And we need to remember, or rather, people outside, I think, this forum need to remember and remind people of the contributions and the expertise and the smarts behind workers who are in these types of careers. And also, when they see a young person, ask them are you the type of person that sees patterns in the real world? Are you curious? Do you notice things? Are you a hands-on learner? Do you like to touch and tinker versus theoretical-based learning? Do you have an attention to detail? Okay. Do you want to use your brain and body? If yes to any of these things, this is something that parents, educators, administrators, and adults in general, it's all good reasons for saying keep the skilled trades on the table in your consideration set. We also, broadly speaking, need to start just tweaking the language that we use. Talk about the trades as a pillar, not the third pillar in higher education. That's especially important for anyone at the administrative level because many parents listen to you, not saying university, college, trades. I've given you all kinds of reasons why that hierarchy can be flipped on its head. Say trades, university, college, or trades, college, university, or university, trades, college. Mix up and get rid of that hierarchy. Talk more about the impact that tradespeople make, without which civilization as we know it would not exist. And celebrate, identify and celebrate balanced smarts, balanced intelligence in our young people, and know and remind them that just because they might be a quiet person and not very talkative, and more introverted, that they are just as smart as someone who is gabbing all the time about what they know. So what are 5 great reasons for a career in the trades, everybody? I'll go right down the line for you. Feel alive at work. Have work-life balance. Have skills security, not be anxious about the future in terms of job security. Get paid while learning and make a difference in the world. I have talked with countless numbers of parents, adults who would love to check 1 or 2 of these boxes, believe me. Well, as I showed to you, many workers in the skilled trades are much more likely to be able to check all 5 of these boxes compared to the rest of the working population of Canada. And the pandemic has shown younger people who are paying attention just how important these benefits are. So if you have a young person, if you know someone, if you want to get them on the right path, remind them and encourage them to take a tech class. Take 1 tech class in your high school career and get familiar and expose yourself. You never know what could happen from there. And if they get the bug, emphasize the specialist high skilled major program, which is available in many boards where they can specialize in a particular area. And in a more official way, I think some of you might be connected with the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program in your high school, where companies can sort of have a relationship with these schools and school boards and start young people on the path to an apprenticeship and help them discover. And they have so many opportunities to be good partners with a company in your area, but also helping change the life of a young person and turn them onto a career in the skilled trades. They're always looking for more partners. So that'll be it from me. Jobtalks.org is where you can find video interviews with workers in different types of Red Seal trades. And jobtalksconstruction.ca, you saw a lot of construction images today. That's because my most recent project has been on the residential and infrastructure related construction sector in Ontario. Thank you very much, everybody. Over to you, maybe Larry or Susan. Thank you very much again. I'm just going to close my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Jon. I enjoyed your message. It's a good refresher coming out of the trades myself, and having dealt with a lot of co-ops over the years, as many of our manufacturers have been. It's a good refresher of how we conduct our business with employees. Happy employees tend to be extremely loyal employees. They hang around for a long time. You don't have that transition where they're being easily poached by the city folk or whatever, where they're chasing the almighty dollar. They see the value of sticking with the employers that they're with and who's fronted them. And like you said, it makes for a happier employee, and at the end of the day, happier employers. And it follows within our theme of employee retention. Thank you very much again on behalf of the membership. And like Dr. Jon had mentioned, he's open for questions.
And if there are none, I'd like to say I just left everybody speechless. So
very much thought-provoking, Dr. Jon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, earlier this year, we had the opportunity to attract some funding from our partners over at Community Futures for the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund to do with the COVID. And we offered it to all the HMA membership, manufacturing members, that is. And it was to provide a confidential review of processes for 6 manufacturers of the recruiting, wage structure, benefit offerings, performance expectations, employee engagement and retainment. And out of that, we ended up with 9 manufacturers requested the opportunity to participate. And we went back to Community Futures, and they were kind enough to provide us with additional funding from the RRF funding model. And we were able to deliver the HMA EAR program for 9 manufacturers. And that was provided by consulting from HRP4B Incorporated for 6 of our participants, and Ward Up to Grove for 3 participants. Now, I'll remind everybody that these consultants went in, and their information is anonymous. So the participants, they know who they are, and nobody's centering them out in any way, shape, or form. Now, a component of the program was to provide HMA members with a summary report of the EAR program recommendations. And we're pleased to provide highlights from that EAR program in a report today. So our next special guest is Mallary Simmons-Perez. She's the lead HR consultant for HRP4B Incorporated, representing our HMA EAR program. Mallory will share valuable information for manufacturers from the HRP4B Incorporated Year Program Summary Report. Thank you, Mallory.
Hi, thank you. So I'm just going to share my screen here.
There she is.
Hi, see me?
Yes, ma'am. Pleasure to meet you, ma'am.
Thank you as well. All right, so we'll just get my screen shared here. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So thanks for the introduction. That was some of my slides, so I'll swing by those just in the interest of time. So yes, I am Mallary Simmons-Perez with HRP4B Inc. And I'm just going to go forward here. Just about us. We're an HR consulting and contracting firm based in St. Thomas, and we're available for on-call needs and short-term and long-term projects. And what we offer, so we provide HR services for pretty much anything relating to employees except payroll. So here's just a list of some of the things we do, from recruiting to leadership and executive coaching, policy development, performance management, pretty much anything you can think of. We can certainly assist in any way. And the project overview, we just kind of went through. So yes, we worked with 6 manufacturing companies, and we gathered information virtually. And then we provided them with a written summary to each of the manufacturers with some recommendations for them to enhance or modify different HR policies and procedures. So our results. First result we had was on job descriptions. So just a little bit of data as well. So as of the 6 manufacturing companies, all do have job descriptions, which is great, but not all were up to date. So that was a recommendation that we had for them, just to make sure that's kept up to date. And as far as the recruitment process, everybody seemed to follow a similar process. They all had a job ad, whether it was on social media or utilizing the career section of their website. 4 out of 6 used internal postings, and 1 out of the 6 went external to an agency to assist with their recruiting. And then another one used newspaper ads. They all did interviews and testing and did orientation. So they all had a great process as far as starting off. Some recruitment data. So the trend is that they just don't have the time to collect recruitment data. The majority of them were not aware of their job offer acceptance ratio, where candidates dropped off in the process, and how long it took to fill open jobs. As far as retention, attrition, and turnover, so 4 out of 6 do monitor attrition, which is the voluntary reduction of employees who are not replaced. 3 out of the 6 monitored retention, which is the process of ensuring employees don't quit their jobs. And 4 out of 6 do monitor turnover, which is the opposite of retention, where employees leave due to a variety of reasons. And for their policies and procedures, almost all of them have a handbook, which is a great start. All make sure to review policies and procedures with new hires, and half of them make sure to actively enforce the policies and procedures. So that was a recommendation we had to them as well, to make sure that they're enforcing those. As far as training, 4 out of 6 offered training for employees to develop their skills, and that was done in-house with an on-site trainer or online training. And 2 out of 4 evaluate employees after completing their training programs. And 2 out of 6 offer job shadowing or mentoring programs for new employees when they come on, to make sure that they're adequately trained. So another recommendation we had for them. And internal communication and relationships. So 4 out of 6 have open and consistent communication from managers about announcements, any changes, anything like that. And most do believe that their managers have a good relationship with employees or are working towards improving that relationship. Employee perks. So all do provide some sort of employee perk, which is great. Whether it's from discounts on their products, free products on a monthly basis, to bonuses, and then various incentives from day off, gift cards, and different programs, employee of the month, and random act of kindness. So they all did a pretty good job in this area. And work-life balance and flexible work arrangements. So they all try to support any kind of request that employee has for time off, but they do struggle offering flexible work arrangements or a compressed work week, flex time or work from home options for all of their employees. So this was generally available for office and salaried staff. 2 out of the 6 regularly accommodate employees who may have to travel to work, who had to work alternate hours due to COVID, or employees who wish to start earlier or later. And most offer flex time to accommodate employees who drop off or pick up their children from school. And this is just kind of an overview of all of our recommendations. So whether it was updating, creating, implementing, developing, this is kind of an overview of, I guess, the most recommendations we made for improvements. And that's it for me. So those are just, some summarized data from the report. Yeah, it was a great experience. Thank you for the opportunity for that. We really enjoyed everybody on the team meeting the manufacturers and, creating some relationships there. So yeah, it was a successful project from our perspective. Oh, I think you're on mute there, Larry.
Pardon me. Thank you, Mallory.
Yeah,
I'm glad it was as a great experience for you. I hope it was every bit as good for the participating manufacturers.
Yeah.
And that they were able to achieve at least some of their goals out of this.
Yeah.
The HMA appreciates the difficulties that our manufacturers are facing with attraction and retention of employees. Over the years, there's been a number of roundtables to address issues pertaining to manufacturing within the county. And there's not much that can be done with a lot of the findings from those roundtables, but attraction and retention of employees is something that we as manufacturers can do. And it's to be hoped that some of that information that HRP4B is able to accrue for the membership, hopefully it will be of a great deal of importance and use to manufacturing in Huron County.
For sure. Yeah. And, we've reached out to them as well and just let them know, if they need any assistance with anything. So we're trying to continue that relationship where we can to assist and help them out as well.
Yes. And thanks again, Mallory.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
And as I stated, after much discussion, the HMA is developing a program to support the HMA factors in these issues as best we can. The HMA is pleased to announce that we've been approved for funding from Huron County SLED, supporting local economic development for the HMA Gears program, General Employee attraction and retention strategy. And this funding is coming directly from the county. HMA is gearing up, and we're prepared to support manufacturing with the HMA Gears program. HMA Gears virtual events and HMA Gears table, sharing of manufacturing strategies of attraction and retention, HMA Gears virtual and live job fairs specific to manufacturing members. We're hoping to be able to provide you soon with the HMA Gears toolbox, and it will be a resource gathering the tools and strategies for attraction and retention of employees. The HMA Gears virtual presence providing constant website, social media, and advertising of the program. Watch your inbox for further details and HMA members for next HMA Gears. I want to thank you all very much for attending our HMA spring event. And thanks again to Dr. Jon Callegher and Mallary Simmons-Perez for joining us today. If you'd all be so kind to respond to our event survey in your inbox later on today, that will help us further try to provide benefits for our membership. Please join us for our 2021 HMA Virtual AGM, Annual General Meeting, and that will be held Thursday, May 13th of this year at 5:30 p.m. Register now on the Eventbrite format. I might add, with the COVID and whatnot, it's been extremely difficult as we are all struggling through this. There's no substitute for in-person, but with the online, the Zoom meetings and whatnot, we're providing the next best thing that we can. As you see there, we have our partners and sponsors in this, and we want to thank you all for your support of the HMA and its membership.